I saw my first solar eclipse in 1991. A high school friend of mine named Paul called me up. I was in Boston at the time, and he said, there's a solar eclipse in Mexico, and we have to go. We started spreading the word, and before we knew it, there were 14 of us who traveled all the way to the tip of Baja, Mexico for this outstanding solar eclipse. And we purchased an old school bus, and we used that bus to drive to the tip of Baja, but by way of Canada. So we traveled up the east coast of the US, and then the full length of Canada, and then down the west coast of the US down to the tip of Baja for the eclipse, and then we made our way back up to San Francisco through Colorado and then ultimately back to Mississippi. It was a 12,000 mile road trip. We had 24 breakdowns. We were about a week behind where we thought we would be. We only had a few days left to get to the eclipse from San Francisco. So there was a lot of apprehension and tension as to whether or not we would make it, and we literally made it to the center line of the eclipse the evening before. The morning of the eclipse, we sat there and looked, and the first person who saw it yelled, and we all celebrated, and we slowly over the course of the next hour watched as the shadow slid across the face of the sun. Off on the horizon, there's a wall of darkness that spreads as far north and south as you can see, and that wall is coming at you at 1,000 miles an hour, and that everything beneath that wall of darkness is like a giant paintbrush being painted black. The surface of the earth disappears, and then instantly that wall interfaces with you, and it's like the lights are off. You can turn around and you can see that wall disappearing off to the east as all of the light of the day is sucked into a little hole, and then suddenly everything is black. It turned out that the spot that we chose, it was our first one, ended up being perfect. After my first eclipse, I decided that I would go to virtually every single eclipse that I could. The eclipse in Easter Island, virtually the entire path was over the ocean. The only landmass that went over was Easter Island. Frequently, there are big celebrations for eclipses, and someone will organize a big festival. Sometimes it's a music festival and so forth in celebration of it that will usually happen several days before or even after the eclipse. This festival that had been planned for 15,000 people ended up only having about 150 people that actually made it all the way there. When we got there, nothing had been set up. So the 150 people that got there had to get together, clear the space, make camping areas, build a stage for the music, build a kitchen for kitchen facilities, build bathhouses for bathhouses, and everyone worked nonstop for about 3 days building this community, and everyone became super close from this experience. About 2 days before the eclipse, we're at a local cantina eating dinner, and the chef comes out and he says, I've got bad news for you. There's a monsoon coming in, and it's coming in tonight, and it's going to be here for 4 days. And then literally a couple hours before the eclipse, the rains stopped, the clouds parted, a double rainbow came out, the eclipse, which was spectacular, happened, followed by another double rainbow, and then the clouds closed back up and 2 more days of monsoon continued. And the individuals who were at that eclipse, because the experience was so powerful, have kept in touch with each other ever since. The eclipse chaser's nemesis is the cloud. So once one has determined the time of the eclipse, the next step is to look at the path and then choose a location somewhere along that path. And arguably the next most important thing is to choose a place along that path that is likely to have clear skies. And then after you've done that, and if there's still a few places to pick, then you might pick a place based on its cultural interest, because you may be there a little time before the eclipse and a little time after the eclipse. On March 20th in 2015, many people traveled from Europe and all over the world to the Faroe Islands to see the eclipse. So we wake up the morning of the eclipse and it is pouring rain. I would say it was probably 20 minutes before the eclipse, a little hole in the sky happens and a beam of sunlight shoots and hits a spit of land that's off in the distance. And then it closes back up. And then you hear yelling and screaming in 5 different languages, cursing this cloud, yelling, and all of a sudden it moves just at the moment of totality, and we experience the full totality, and then the clouds come back. That was pretty amazing. One of the things that I find most interesting about the eclipse is the effect that it has on the people that experience it. And I sort of divide the people that go to eclipses into 4 different categories. One category, I would say, is the scientific community. There are qualities of the sun that can only be studied during an eclipse. The second group of people are the spiritual community. And those are the people that come to witness the experience of the solar eclipse. The third group of people are the people that live there, the local people that the eclipse is coming to. And the fourth group of people are the people that are just there because they're traveling and they don't even know about it. They just happen to be at the right place at the right time. So the thing that I really enjoy, in addition to the spiritual qualities of the eclipse itself, are seeing how these 4 different groups of people interact with each other. On August 21st, 2017, there is a total solar eclipse that goes across the U.S. And there has been a lot of excitement about this eclipse because it's the first eclipse that's viewable from the continental U.S. since 1979. This eclipse goes literally from the west coast of Oregon across the entire width of the United States and exits over the Atlantic coast in South Carolina. So a little over 20 years ago, a bunch of my friends from high school and college purchased a piece of property in South Carolina. When we purchased the property, we had no idea that it would be on the path of the eclipse. And we found out several years later that it was, and we have been planning for many years a celebration on this property. We are inviting friends and friends of friends. There'll be about 400 people there, and we are making it into a 4-day music festival in celebration of the eclipse. There is a creek that runs through the middle of the property that has a waterfall that comes into a cove that goes into a large lake that the property borders, and the eclipse is going to line right up with that cove. First eclipse that I went to in Baja, Mexico, we ended up on a stretch of beach where there was only one other vehicle. And the other vehicle was a Nissan Pathfinder that had 2 engineers in it from San Francisco. So we ended up making friends with them, and one of them, whose name is Art, ended up becoming very close friends with us. Separately from that, there is a large group of individuals from the Atlanta area that have a community that's very strong, and they have an annual gathering that they have on our property. And one of the women in that group is Stacy. And Stacy and Art are getting married at this solar eclipse. So it's, in addition to the obvious celebration of the 2 of them marrying each other, it is symbolic almost of the marriage of these 2 different communities. So the fact that he was introduced to us to the eclipse and Stacy is from this other group and they're coming together is bigger than just the 2 of them. It's symbolic of these 2 groups and was born arguably of an eclipse itself.